Hi, I'm Kirsty Henderson from Western Teacher. Scores of teachers from all over the state have gathered to discuss issues that matter to them. They listened to keynote speakers and took part in a number of workshops at this year's New Educators Conference at the Teachers Union. The host, Executive Member Samantha Schofield, introduced the SSTUWA President Anne Gisborne and Deputy Director General of the Department David Axworthy. It was an opportunity for participants to learn more about subjects including the teacher's online planning system, how to get a job and how to get a transfer, knowing your rights as a teacher, innovation in Aboriginal education, dealing with difficult parents and creating safe places for all students and teachers. The majority had certainly come to listen to Glen Pearsall, a brilliant educator, communicator and author. After his address, I asked Glen about the key points he raised in his last book.
Look, I suppose that the thing about the book, the fundamental organising idea, is that in teaching it's not what you say no to, it's what you say yes to that counts. Yeah? And so fundamentally we think engagement is about finding small everyday ways to get kids to value what works well and then to grow it in terms of practice. So when we talk about cooperative classrooms, fundamentally we're talking about identifying the behaviours we want and catching kids behaving. Yeah? When we then start moving on and talking about things like staying on task, fundamentally it's about reminding them of the value of the task itself. And so often when people talk about whether a class works or not, they talk in discipline terms. You know, what do you do when a kid does the wrong thing? I'm much more interested in finding something that a student is passionate about and finding a small everyday way to get them to focus on that.
Glen, what's your best advice to new educators who weren't able to attend this conference?
Yeah, look, I think that the fundamental idea with new teaching is about being open to new practice. And I said, in the conference that often people talk about, being an old teacher or a young teacher, and I'm only really interested in that notion of an open or a closed teacher, and I think it's about being open. So if I had to, when I used to teach uni, I gave this advice, if I had advice to give young teachers, it would be steal great ideas. I think being open to the possibility of what you do collectively makes the job easier, and I think it's a really tough gig teaching sometimes to start with, but it's worth it. And so that idea that just being on the lookout for the great practice that's already there so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, I think is crucial to making the most of what is a really great profession.
Do you think that children today are sort of becoming more demanding, I guess? Is a teacher's role becoming greater and more difficult, more challenged?
People often frame that question in, are kids becoming more demanding? I think undoubtedly the role is becoming more demanding. I think that what's expected of teachers in terms of workload, of reflection, of understanding of topic areas is of a really high standard, and I think that the real juggle for teachers is kind of maintaining a kind of a work-life balance so they can get the most out of that. So in terms of dealing with student behaviour, I think it's always been really demanding. You talk to a teacher from 40 years ago, they say it's demanding, and I think it's still really demanding now, but it's really important.
So you think the techniques that you discuss in the book, they're going to work for, children who are at risk, more difficult to teach?
Well, look, I'm happy to say that they're, I think that most of them have a research and a practical base, and I'd like to think that every technique we have, particularly in the new book, Classroom Dynamics, there's a whole chapter on turning around a difficult class, and that comes out of lots of experience from lots of teachers. It's, I always feel odd putting my name on my books because I think fundamentally teaching is built up out of the practice of all your colleagues, and there's lots of far wiser people than me whose great ideas are in there.
Glen Pearsall is probably one of the most entertaining people I've had speak to me in the last couple of years. I think some of his strategies in the classroom have been exceptionally engaging and exciting for our new educators, and I'm sure they're going to come away with a lot of information to take back to the classrooms on Monday.
I thought he was highly engaging and spoke at a very professional level, but just concrete, hands-on stuff you can take away and do in the classroom. So it was a really good blend of the professional knowledge, but also the content.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I am very much looking forward to getting back to school on Monday and actually starting to play some of the games that he was talking us through and starting to incorporate some of that into my own practice.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'd love to have him come out and do some talks at our school and some time in the classroom. It'd be fantastic.
Oh, amazing. I want to take him into my classroom with me. He's a real inspiration.
I thought it was fantastic, very inspirational.
The State School Teachers Union respectfully acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this program was produced.